watched, not by accident, not in passing. Someone deliberately captured your image, not to honor you, but to use you. And they sent it to a powerful person whose obsession with your energy began the moment they saw your face. This wasn't admiration, it was possession. And heaven is ringing the alarm. God says, you were targeted because you carry something rare, a light, a legacy, a divine assignment that threatens the very plans of darkness. And so they moved in secret, someone close to you, with smiling eyes and quiet envy, handed your photo over like currency. But what they didn't realize is this: your image is protected. What carries heaven's mark cannot be used for manipulation. Archangel Michael says he intercepted the spiritual transaction just in time. The powerful person who received your image tried to attach spiritual bindings to your reflection. They wanted access to your life without your consent. They wanted to pull you in, not out of love, but control. But Michael's sword of fire struck the link and severed it in the unseen. This is not just a story, it's a warning. You're being called higher now, watched by angels, guarded by fire. The betrayal has been exposed, and the one who gave you away, heaven has turned its face from them. You are not just seen, you are divinely observed, and heaven is making moves on your behalf. You must not ignore this, because what happens next in your life depends on whether you open this message with your full spirit, or walk away and leave the truth unfinished. You were never meant to be used. You were meant to be crowned. The moment the flash struck, you didn't even know it had happened. There were no sounds, no footsteps, no whispers to warn you, just a presence, silent, cold, hidden in the folds of a day that felt ordinary. But above your shoulder, behind the veil of the physical world, a camera was raised with dark intent. Your image was captured, not by accident, but by assignment. And that image did not stay in secret. It traveled. It was sent to a person whose power is cloaked in deception. Someone you've never met face to face, but they know your name now. Not just your name, but your face, your energy, your potential. The image was not just a picture. It was an offering. It was passed through a web of shadows until it landed in the hands of someone with influence, wealth, and an agenda. And what they want from you is not love, not care. It is control. You have felt the shift, haven't you? That invisible weight around your shoulders. That sense that your steps are being watched. That something unseen is trying to press you down. This is not paranoia. It's not your imagination. Something was triggered the moment your photo entered the possession of that person. They saw something in you. Something divine, something rare, and they desired to possess it, to harness it. But what they truly saw was your destiny, and that frightened them more than it thrilled them. Archangel Michael says, the moment the image reached their hands, a dark covenant was almost made. A spiritual transaction began. They began whispering your name during private hours, not with love, but with greed. They wanted to redirect the favor surrounding you. They tried to spiritually bind your favor to themselves, and from that day forward, things began to go wrong. Time slipped through your fingers like sand. People became cold, distant. Doors that should have opened stayed shut. These were the first symptoms of what began when the image left your control. The person it was sent to has connections to people who move through spiritual corridors. They are not just powerful in the physical, they command attention in the invisible world as well. And your photo was used to open a door they were never meant to touch. But heaven saw it. Archangel Michael cried out your name in the realm of the Spirit. A great flash of blue flame broke through a dark meeting that was being held under a black moon. They were trying to speak a curse into your name, but Michael interrupted. Yet, even with his sword raised, the damage was partially done. Not fully, but enough to cause confusion in your steps. God says it was not your fault. You did not invite this. But the image they took held a piece of your light, and it drew eyes that were never meant to look upon you. For days, you felt like something is wrong, like a shadow follows even when you pray. That's because someone has been actively working to pierce the protection around you. And they would have succeeded if not for the shield that still holds. But you must know this was not a coincidence. This was not a random moment. The photo was captured with timing and purpose, and it was delivered with a whispered promise. This one is special. This one is chosen. That promise reached the wrong ears. And now someone who should have never known your face is reaching for you in ways you cannot yet see. There is more. In the shadows of the spirit world, a deal was almost struck using your likeness as the currency. Someone was prepared to exchange spiritual gifts on your behalf, trying to inherit blessings that were born for you alone. The person who received your image tried to speak ownership over your destiny, tried to cloak themselves in your divine light, as if they could bypass heaven's scrolls by merely claiming what they did not earn. But your angels were not asleep. Though they could not stop the photo from being taken, they rerouted the curse. They turned the spell back on itself. That's why you felt moments of dizziness, waves of nausea, sudden confusion. The poison that was meant for you hit a spiritual barrier, and in its collision, it rippled into your life. Temporarily, not permanently. Michael is still standing between you and them. But there's more you must understand before the breach can be fully healed. Because the person who captured the photo, they're not far, and they're not done. It wasn't a stranger. The one who handed over your photo was not far, not foreign, not unfamiliar. They are someone close, closer than you think. They knew where you would be that day. They knew how you moved. They watched you, not with affection, but with calculation. They wore a smile in your presence, a voice of agreement, a mask of support. But in their heart, something dark had taken root. Jealousy first, then resentment, and finally betrayal. The moment your name began to rise, even quietly, they felt the shift. The energy around you was growing. The light in your life began to glow too brightly for their comfort, and instead of lifting you higher, they looked for a way to anchor you. They couldn't sabotage you openly, so they chose something that couldn't be traced. A photo, a small betrayal, but one with massive spiritual consequences. God says, this betrayal was born from envy wrapped in intimacy. The one who did it carries your secrets. They know your habits, your strengths, your wounds. That's how they knew exactly when and how to take what was never theirs. They didn't just send your image, they sent a spiritual invitation, as if they were saying, "Here, take this one." They don't know how chosen they are. Archangel Michael says, the betrayal was not only planned, it was rehearsed. This person consulted someone else first. Yes, another voice whispered in their ear, convincing them that sending your image would earn them favor with the powerful one who received it. A dark pact was formed, verbal, invisible, but deadly. One gave the image, the other received, and both tried to gain from what was stolen. But here's the terrifying truth: the betrayal almost worked. For a few weeks, your life went dimmer. You questioned yourself more. You lost trust in your instincts. You started to feel smaller inside your own body. Because their spiritual transaction tried to press you down, to put you in a fog. That fog was not natural. It was placed. And the one who placed it still walks freely near you. This is why you've been sensing duality in someone's behavior. Their compliments feel empty. Their presence carries a strange discomfort. They offer kindness, but it feels rehearsed. That's not intuition. It's divine alert. Heaven has been trying to show you who they really are, but your heart kept giving them the benefit of the doubt. No more. You must see clearly now. The one who betrayed you didn't just act once. After sending your image, they watched and waited for the fallout. And when they saw that your finances were strained, when they heard you were overwhelmed or discouraged, they were secretly relieved. They interpreted your struggle as proof that their plan had worked, that you were shrinking, that you were easier to control. But they were wrong, because something unexpected happened. Instead of collapsing, your soul began to fight back. Even in silence, you kept standing. Even without understanding why, you kept praying, and every act of resistance created fractures in the curse they helped unleash. Your resilience, even in tears, became spiritual warfare, and now the curse is breaking. But you still must know who. There is one object they left in your space, a gift, a piece of clothing, a message, or even a social media tag that carries the residue of the transaction. The moment you recognize it, it must be removed. That item holds the energy of the agreement they made. It acts like a spiritual bridge that keeps the influence alive. But once it's gone, heaven will be able to sever the link completely. God says, your heart has been too loyal to people who have not earned it. And though you were innocent, your silence gave room for their deception to grow. But now the window is closing. You are being called to awaken, to remove blind trust and replace it with divine discernment. This person still speaks well of you in public, but in private, they've cast their hopes on your failure, because if you rise, they will be exposed. If your name is honored, their actions will become unbearable in the light of truth. They are terrified of your breakthrough. That's why they gave your image away, not to bless you, to block you. But heaven has overturned their plan. Archangel Michael intercepted a second message they tried to send. This time a voice memo, a spiritual chant, a new petition to deepen the bind. But he cut the signal. He raised his sword and lit a fire in the path between your name and their curse. Their access is shrinking. Their window is closing. But yours is about to open in ways that will leave them trembling. You were never meant to be hidden. But you were also never meant to be handed over like merchandise. Your image was divine, meant for glory, not exploitation. And now, the one who sees all is bringing it back into your hands. But to move forward, you must release the one who betrayed you in silence. Let them go. The time of pretending is over. There was a moment, quiet to the world, but roaring in the heavens, when the transaction nearly completed. A second ritual was forming. The one who received your image had begun constructing a spiritual likeness of you, something false, something twisted, built from imitation and ill-gotten access. They began to speak your name while lighting a flame not sanctioned by God. They tried to attach your essence to their desire. They wanted what was yours without your presence. They wanted your light without your permission. But Archangel Michael was already moving. Before they could finish the binding, before the mirror could be polished with deception, a blue flame tore through the veil between their intent and heaven's decree. The skies over their secret meeting split. The winds in the spirit world howled with divine protest, and Michael descended with fire in his wings and a sword forged in divine justice. He did not whisper. He shouted your name into the void, and it shook the walls of their illusion. The energy surrounding your photo ignited, not with darkness, but with a holy fire that could not be contained. The false altar they were building began to crack. They scrambled. They tried to preserve it. But Michael stood between their words and your destiny like a storm made of light. God says, Michael was sent because what they were doing was no longer just a personal betrayal. It became a spiritual crime. They were reaching into realms they were never meant to touch. They were rewriting what heaven had already written, and for that there would be consequences. But not just for them, for you too. Not as punishment, but as a requirement. Because once an angel intervenes like this, a reckoning must follow. You can no longer pretend you're unaware. You are being required to step into greater spiritual clarity now. You must see what you didn't want to admit. That spiritual war has already begun around your name. The day Michael tore through the veil, you felt something strange, didn't you? Maybe you woke up breathless. Maybe you felt a sudden urge to cry or pray without knowing why. That was the moment the interception occurred. Your spirit felt the break. Your body reacted, And from that day forward, the war around you became visible in your life. Delays multiplied, people acted strangely. You saw confusion in conversations, appointments falling through, money slipping away without reason. That was the backlash. When Michael blocked the spiritual transaction, their plans turned inward. They began to lose control. And the more your name resisted their ritual, the more their world shook. But there's more. The one who received your image tried a second time. This time, they attempted to use your reflection. They printed it, framed it, meditated on it in secret. They thought, if they couldn't reach you in the spirit, they would reach for your image in the flesh. They tried to summon your favor by invoking your likeness, twisting admiration into obsession. Archangel Michael says, he shattered that mirror. The frame now lies broken. Their hands, once steady with intent, began to tremble. The spirit they invoked refused to obey. And in that moment, a scream echoed in the spiritual realm, because the plan was unraveling. But you still feel the residue, don't you? A fog that lifts in moments, only to return without reason. That's the residue of what was stopped, but not yet erased. The image they used carried a fragment of you, and that fragment still longs to return to wholeness. You are not cursed. You are not bound, but you are still incomplete until the fragment is reclaimed. And that is why God is speaking now. You are being summoned, not just to listen, but to rise, to take back what was stolen, to seal the gaps they tried to widen. You are no longer allowed to live in ignorance of your spiritual weight. Heaven has declared your name as sacred territory, and from this point forward, you must guard it as such. This means changing how you move, how you speak, how you allow access to your image, your voice, your presence. You are not just a person. You are a vessel of divine assignments, and those who wish to use you will now be denied, but only if you agree to stand in full awareness of who you are. The interception was not random. It was a divine signal that you are being promoted in the spirit. But with promotion comes pressure. With elevation comes exposure. You must now walk like one who is being watched, not with fear, but with precision. Because Archangel Michael didn't just defend you. He revealed you. You've been marked, not for harm, but for holiness. And though your image traveled into enemy hands, your identity was never for sale. Michael protected what matters most. Your name in heaven's scroll, your true design, your sacred future. But the enemy hasn't stopped. They are regrouping, trying to find new access. And now it's your turn to stand, with knowledge, with clarity, with unshakable discernment. The angels have done their part. Now it is yours. You didn't imagine it. That sudden feeling of being watched. The strange exhaustion in rooms where nothing was happening. The calls that came without purpose. The people who reached out only to leave you more drained than before. These weren't coincidences. They were aftershocks, spiritual consequences. From the moment your photo passed into hands it never belonged in. There is a spiritual law at work. When someone claims what heaven has not given them, a ripple begins. It moves through time, through bloodlines, through spaces you walk in every day. That's why your sleep was disturbed, why you lost interest in things you once loved, why your finances, once steady, began to fluctuate like a tide pulled by a hidden moon. They tampered with your light, and that tampering threw your path off balance. God says it has reached the final stages of exposure. You have entered the part of the journey where truth must overtake confusion. But before the blessing can be released, the residue must be cleansed. Because the image they took of you became a key. It was used to unlock doors in the wrong direction. And now heaven must redirect what was misaligned. Some of the people who once welcomed you began to grow cold. Their hearts were influenced, spiritually nudged, by what the enemy hoped to accomplish using your likeness. They were given dreams with your face, but not your truth. The one who received your image tried to spiritually implant suggestions into the atmosphere. Messages like, "Don't trust them. They're not who they say they are." And without realizing it, some began to believe the lie. But that lie ends now. Archangel Michael says, the cloud around your name is lifting, one by one. Those affected by the distortion are waking up. They're seeing you for who you truly are again. And those who were poisoned by rumor, jealousy, or misdirected dreams will soon find themselves apologizing or removing themselves entirely. You will not need to beg for clarity. It will arrive, and yet consequences still unfold. You've lost time. Certain doors that should have opened months ago were delayed. You may have noticed job offers that disappeared, messages that never got returned, sudden cancellations. These weren't mere coincidences. They were spiritual blockades constructed in response to the image transaction. But hear this clearly, none of it is unrecoverable. God has declared a restoration, and the very person who used your image to gain favor will now watch as heaven restores you with sevenfold power. They tried to extract from your future, but they only activated a deeper release. What they stirred up was not your downfall. It was your awakening. Still, there are signs of the binding you must remove. There is a place you go, perhaps daily, perhaps occasionally, that holds energy from the person who betrayed you. This could be a seat, a path, a specific doorway. Pay attention to the strange stillness or discomfort when you pass through. That space carries the echo of their intention. Heaven is revealing it to you now so you can reclaim it, anoint it, cleanse it, or never return. There is also a phrase that was used repeatedly around you, by them or others, after the photo was taken. Something that made you feel smaller. Something like, "You're too much," or "Don't get ahead of yourself." That phrase wasn't harmless. It was spiritually charged. It was spoken to suppress your rise. And now, that phrase is being overturned. Say it no more. Think it no more. You are not too much. You are exactly the size heaven needs you to be for the assignment coming next. The person who received your image is growing anxious. They feel the unraveling. The energy that once obeyed them is growing wild, slipping from their grip. What they built on stolen light is now collapsing. You may feel an urge to reach out, to offer forgiveness prematurely. But wait, God says, do not move until I say. There is still more to be revealed. A message is coming soon. Something will be exposed. You will overhear a conversation, see a name pop up, or stumble across a record you weren't meant to see. That's the final piece of the puzzle. Heaven will not allow this chapter to close with shadows still clinging to it. You deserve clarity, and clarity is coming. Meanwhile, the delays are ending. That creative project you abandoned, it's time to pick it back up. That plan you shelved due to confusion, take it out again. The fog is lifting. The false words spoken over your life are being burned in the divine fire. Archangel Michael stands guard still, sword drawn, eyes forward. But his message has changed. Where once he cried out your name in warning, he now speaks it in proclamation. Heaven is declaring the restoration of all that was tangled, bound, or bruised by this invisible war. You may feel tender. That's because your spirit is healing. But this time, you are not bleeding. You are becoming, and no one, not the betrayer, not the thief, not the watcher behind the lens, can stop what has already been rewritten in the courts of heaven. The aftermath is fading, and what comes next will be worth every tear.